Less than an hour ago, Murray Campbell from All Out and I met with Alistair Burt, the Foreign Office Minister, just across the road. He gave us his assurance that David Cameron would be raising Russia's anti-gay law with President Putin when he meets him later this week.
I began campaigning 47 years ago at the age of 15. So work it out, 1967. So I've been campaigning for almost half a century. And those campaigns have crossed a broad spectrum of issues around social justice and human rights. I'm probably best known for my work on lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender human rights. But I also do a lot of work supporting democracy movements in countries like Pakistan, Iran, Uganda and Russia. And the guiding principle of all my work is that human rights are universal and indivisible. That everyone on this planet, whatever their background, wherever they live, is entitled to the same human rights.
We're all united! We're all united in saying, Russia, stop your homophobia! Yes! Russia, stop your abuse of all human rights! Yes! Freedom of expression for all Russian people, gay and straight.
The first thing I can remember, 4 young girls about my own age were murdered in Birmingham, Alabama, in the United States, in the white racist wing of a black church. I can remember thinking to myself, how could anyone kill another human being, let alone 4 young girls? And so that engaged me in the Black Civil Rights Movement and their struggle for justice in America. And I've obviously adapted a lot of their methods. So that was the first thing that really got my mind thinking. And the second thing was when I was 15, which is really when I began, when I first did a campaign. I was born in Melbourne, Australia. In 1967, the state of Victoria still had the death penalty. And there was an instance where a prisoner who'd escaped from prison allegedly shot dead a prison warder. And I worked out at the age of 15 that where the prisoner was supposedly standing and where the warder supposedly was, he could not have fired that bullet. Plus there was contradictory evidence from some of the other prison warders and bystanders and members of the public. But he was going to be hanged anyway, despite this evidence. So I got involved in the campaign. I went around my local neighbourhood chalking slogans on walls and things like that. So that was my first ever protest. That man was hanged anyway. And that destroyed my trust and confidence in the police, the judiciary, and the government. It made me a lifelong skeptic of authority. I thought, if they can hang a man where there is reasonable doubt that he committed the crime, where there's not absolutely conclusive evidence that he was guilty, if they didn't do that, then these people are not worthy of respect. You can't trust them. You mustn't trust them. And it led me to question other things, like the way in which the black Aboriginal people of Australia were treated. Australia's involvement in the Vietnam War alongside the United States. So I began to question everything. So that's how it all began.
Hi Nick, isn't it about time you apologise to the British people for your party's long history of anti-Semitism, homophobia and attacks on the Muslim community? This is the BNP in action. Look at it. Look at it. Stop. Why don't you apologise for your anti-Semitism, homophobia and attacks on the Muslim community? The British people are owed an apology, Nick.
In my nearly half a century of activism, I've been involved in many different styles of campaigning. There's no one single model. There are many ways to campaign. I've tended to follow the model of the Chartists, the suffragettes, and the Black Civil Rights Movement in the United States. Those movements used direct action. They went and challenged people in power to make their claim for social justice. when you look at the history of this country, we can see that virtually every right and freedom we have has been won as a result of protest. People went to prison to defend and assert and win the right to free speech. You've probably all heard of Emily Davidson, who threw herself under the King's horse in protest of the denial of votes to women and tragically died. You've probably also heard of the many suffragettes who were jailed and went on hunger strike and were forcibly fed. Those methods were quite extreme, but many people would argue that it was thanks to the suffragettes that the issue of women's right to vote got on the mainstream political agenda and pressured the government to change. I've done over 3,000 direct action protests, over 3,000, where I've either broken the law or done something like run in front of somebody's limousine. And every single time, even to this day, my stomach is churning over. I've got a splitting headache, I'm shaky, I feel physically violently ill. But my will drives me on because I'm thinking of the cause. I've been beaten up so many times that virtually all the teeth in my mouth are chipped and cracked. I've got permanent brain damage and eyesight damage in this eye. There has been quite a personal price to pay, but I say nothing by comparison to what happens to human rights defenders in many other countries. When I tried to arrest President Mugabe in Brussels in 2001, I was beaten unconscious by his bodyguards by the lobby of the Hilton Hotel. And I knew, or I feared, they may attack me, but I didn't think they'd actually beat me unconscious. Because they did it in front of all the world's media. It was sort of the best thing that could have happened. Because a lot of people said, if President Mugabe is prepared to have his bodyguards beat unconscious a peaceful protester in the centre of a European capital city in broad daylight in front of the Belgian police and secret service with all the media present, just imagine what he's doing to his own people when no one's watching. Until 1999, Britain had, by volume, the largest number of anti-gay laws of any country in the world. And some of these laws dated back centuries. So the abolition of all the many different anti-gay laws has happened really in just over the last decade or so. So it's been a phenomenal pace of law reform. And a lot of it has been due to behind-the-scenes lobbying of MPs and things like that. But a lot of it has also been as a result of direct action protests. A good example was that in London, until 1990, same-sex couples who merely kissed or cuddled in a public place could be arrested, prosecuted, and fined. We announced about 2 weeks in advance we're going to hold a mass kissing of same-sex couples in Piccadilly Circus, and if the police thought this law was worth defending, they should come and arrest us all. If they didn't, they should make an announcement that henceforth the law would not be used to arrest and prosecute same-sex couples. So it was a very big, high-profile challenge. So most members of the public, when they heard the story, thought this was a really stupid, wasteful use of police time and resources. So we began to win hearts and minds even before the kissing took place. And then, of course, on the night of the kissing, we had nearly, I think about 200, maybe even 300 same-sex couples turned up. The whole of Piccadilly Circus was full. Lo and behold, about an hour before the kissing was due to start, I got a message from the then Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Paul Condon, that same-sex couples would not be arrested for merely kissing and cuddling in the street.
It is a stupendous achievement that so many different laws have been repealed in such a short space of time since 1999. A real tribute to the many tens of thousands of people, LGBT and our much valued straight allies, who marched and walked and protested, who lobbied and campaigned and emailed to get these changes. It was not done by me or anybody else alone. It was a huge collective effort, which shows, I think, the power of the people. When people decide something is wrong and needs to change, if you organise, you can change it.